sheer will. Like, it just, we have to do this. And so everybody would be bonded together, like, we're gonna go arm in arm and we're gonna make this thing happen, right? And we would, different teams would try different ideas out, and the ideas would compete to see which one would win. So it was not like, but we all knew that this is what we wanted to build. It was just how we were gonna get there, and we had to evolve very quickly to find the right path, right? And so it was just a lot of people working on a lot of things all in parallel. We were boiling the ocean. We had to build our own touchscreen manufacturing, right? We had to build the touchscreen, we had to build chips for that. We made custom chips for the phone. We made all new software stacks, new operating system, new apps, all new modalities of how to use them. So it was, every single thing was new. There was, except maybe the DRAM. We didn't do DRAM and flash, but literally the power supplies, everything was new.
So you basically built the touchscreen was a company in itself?
The touchscreen was a company in itself.
Were you involved in that?
Yes. When Steve put the big thing in, big ping pong table in front, it's like, well, this is what we're going to put on this little device. It was a ping pong table. You think we can make this into, I'm like, well, Todd, walk me through, I'm like, there was no unobtainium there. There was no breaking laws of physics. It was just a lot of hard work. Now you could have a lot of risks, and maybe it all fell over, but you could see the steps you needed to take to work out each of the risks, and that's what we had to do. But we did crazy stuff. Like 3 months before the iPhone shipped, we moved from plastic on the top to glass. If anyone understands anything about hardware engineering, 3 months before production, you're going to switch from plastic to glass and all the drop testing, and it's gonna, and your dropping is gonna, shatter.
Plastic scratch. That's why you.
The plastic would scratch because you'd have keys in your because we had it on the iPhone or the iPod because it had plastic and it would scratch. So it's like we gotta go glass. I'm like, holy shit! We were moving mountains, right, to get glass on it and redesign everything in 3 months after we had already showed it to the world.
So what's a bad day working for Steve Jobs like?
A bad day? A bad day is either one where he assumed that you were covering something and you guys were seeing eye to eye on something. Like it happened just before the iPod shipped. There was this big thing. Because he assumed it was going to be this way, well, we were designing it that way, and we never really talked about it. But there was a good reason why we did it that way. So it was usually kind of this mismatch of how it was his expectation versus what was being delivered. Or we overlooked something. We being the engineering team or the design team or something, and like, oh shit. We're gonna have to tell him that, right? And then it was like, right. It was, it was a interesting discussion.
I also heard
the phrase, "I'm going to dress you down now," was heard a few times.
I also heard that if you stood up and pushed back, that Steve would often come around. That if you were really committed to your ideas, that he would ultimately adopt your ideas and then they would become his ideas.
So first, there are fact-based decisions and there are opinion-based decisions. You could almost always win the fact-based decisions if you put in enough work and get enough data to present the facts. You could win those. Opinion-based decisions, good luck. Because there was one guy who held the opinion. But if you came with 5, 6, 7 people, he trusted their opinions. And we were all singing the same song, going, this has to be this way. Let me show you enough reasons from all the different angles. You could then get him to change. It wasn't easy, but you could do it. Yeah. But then he saw that we were all, we were aligned, and we're like, this is the right thing, Steve. Listen, and he would definitely move. So it was not like, but there were certain things like no stylus was like a big deal. Like no, and like it wasn't. And then at some point when the keyboard was working enough, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
So you came to this you know, a decade of 10 years of sort of being in Silicon Valley without a big success. You're at General Magic, you're at Philips. Can you sort of name, what did you learn from failure, and did it serve you well at Apple?
Oh, absolutely. Well, okay. So first thing was, like I said, you know, scope the project. Don't have a 4-year project. We did like a 4-year project at General Magic, right? We know what happens. The world changes a lot in 4 years, and today really it changes a lot. But scope it so you can deliver something so that the team, it doesn't become an Apollo mission or like a Bay Bridge project that takes 2 generations to get done. Do something that gets in a year or a little bit longer than that, so you can keep the team together and motivated. So one was scoping it right and shipping. Great artists have to ship. Don't keep adding stuff. So that was the first thing. Then the next one was make sure you're solving a need that people are going to have in sometime real soon, right? Like communicate. Then don't just have that and then make sure it's a great design, but then make sure you understand the sales and marketing of how you're going to get it and the messaging for why people need it, and make sure you have it properly, because you can make all this stuff, but then if you wasted all your money and you have nothing left to sell it, and you don't know how you're going to sell it, well, shit, you can build anything, but can you sell it? So that was another lesson, right? So it was all of these kinds of failure upon failure upon failure upon failure, like, then you kind of realize, oh, this is kind of the recipe for success, right? And then Steve then took it to the next level, which was total experience. Marketing, packaging, all the accessories, all the, you know, just making sure you had this entire experience from the time they saw the first ad to the time it was unboxed, the time, you know, all those details.
Yeah.
So, you know, very, very interesting.
Let me put you on the spot. You know, from being around the Valley for a long time, one of the things I like to say is the visionaries are always wrong. And so you've lived through sort of what I think was 2 big generations of computing. I mean, more than lived through. You created 2 generations of computing. One is personal computing, and the other is kind of the flip side, ubiquitous computing, where, you know, I don't know who said it, but you know, computing disappears into everyday objects and they become magic. And you built one. It was called Nest. You built 3, actually. You know, the music player combined with computing, the phone combined with computing, and the thermostat combined with computing. So, what's next?
What's next?
In terms of generational, can you see your way to something beyond ubiquitous computing, which is, or Internet of Things, where we are now? Is there, if you had to sort of say, what's the next big thing in Silicon Valley?
What's the next big thing in Silicon Valley? I think it's reapplying all this technology to other fields. You know, at some point, we've kind of given ourselves all these tools, but now it's reapplying these tools and really disrupting the other fields. Like a lot of times, if you talk, you know, just before, there wasn't a lot of computing in biology. You know, maybe there's spreadsheets and there was little trackers and communication, but truly doing computational biology. Okay, great, right? We're there. So it's taking all of these resources and then reapplying it to other fields. Like we're seeing it now with autonomous driving, right? Take all this stuff, put new sensors on it, and now we're enabling a whole new set of functionality the world's ever seen. So I think it's about bringing these kinds of capabilities into these other realms and disrupting them and changing them. Because we've gotten to a place where we have a ton of functionality, what we need on our person. Now let's put all these things around us.
I'm going to start asking audience questions because we're into that part. I have a couple more things I want to ask you. And now for something totally different. 2 questions. Will Apple build a car? And how would you design an Apple car?
Well, Apple building, I don't know if they're going to build a car. Steve and I had walks about building a car. We would walk around the IL campus and what would we do differently, you know? But I think if you're going to build a car today, you have to really understand a car was a kind of a one-size-fits-all thing. Like it works in a city, it works on highways, it's all this stuff. I think we're quickly, you know, now that I live in Paris, you see there's different forms of mobility inside of different types of areas. And I think you're going to see much more specialized transport than you do today, which is more, one size fits, same morphology. So I think that's going to change, because when you can only drive 25 miles an hour inside a city, and you're seeing like Paris is going to ban certain things, or certain cities are banning things like traditional cars, you're going to be able to have different safety metrics, and you're going to have different, like if they're self-driving, they only run 30 miles an hour, right? You don't have to have all the safety gear. And when they can bounce off each other or not collide into each other, you're going to have a different kind of thing. So I think you have to really not think of the morphology of a car as you see it today. It's going to be very different based on what you really need. Because a lot of cases in an urban area, you may not even own it, right? Or maybe it's in a campus, or it's two-wheeled or something like that.
At one point I counted more than 20 self-driving startups and big companies in the Valley alone. Do you think there's a hype cycle, and will there be?
It's a total hype cycle. In fact, I just got in my email, because I read this stuff. It says, we've mapped the 635 most important startups in doing autonomous cars. It's like 635, right?
Yeah.
And if you remember when the cars came out in the 20s and the teens and stuff like that, there were hundreds of brands doing stuff. So we're at that stage. We're at that Cambrian explosion of stuff. So we're going to see different brands. We're going to see different things. There's going to be all kinds of change. So, like, it's all these little teams all trying stuff, but it's all going to consolidate over time. But that's what it takes. It's like, it's just when there's just like we have AI, AI applied to all these different areas. So it's just the normal, like how many PDA companies did we have in 1990 between the Newton and Go and EO and Menta and General Magic and right? Right. So it's that same kind of, and now there's so much money around the world that everybody tries.
How far away are you today from being a kid in high school or college with your Apple II? You've come a ways. Would you ever dive into one thing again? You're running an incubator now, which by definition means you've got your hands on, 20 or 30 projects at any one time? So do you ever miss, so now you're in this you got this new life. Do you ever miss having one thing, just one project?
I've come to realize over time that I love doing lots of different things, and I'm curious about all kinds of different things. And so when I get to work with all these teams, I get to be a kid again with them in each of these things. So I get to learn about computational biology, or I get to learn about agri-tech, or I get to learn about food technology or fin technology. And you start to see the parallels between each of these areas. So for me, I get to see a palette of things. And through that, maybe one day you come up with a good idea, but you don't just come up with a good idea. It took 2 years to come up with Nest after the Apple experience, right? So you got to immerse yourself, because I don't think it's just, like I said, it's going to be these overlaps. And that's why Nest happened, it was this overlap. So you have to go through all these experiences and see the need and see different technologies and kind of take from there and put together something new. So maybe one day it'll be that way. But right now it's exploring and having fun with lots of different technologies and teams, and maybe there's something that bubbles up from that, in years from now.
Here's a question, speaking about things that might bubble up. Augmented reality, virtual reality, will they happen, and when?
So, kind of like General Magic in 1991 with, personal mobile communication. Like I said, I was doing VR in 1988 when Jaron Lanier, right, he was the VR guy at the time, right, we were doing VR in 88. So fast forward, we're talking 30 years almost, and we're still talking about VR, and it's still having fits and starts getting out. All the work that I've done on VR, because we even did VR glasses or a sort of VR at Apple with the iPod that we never shipped. And then doing AR when I was doing a lot of augmented reality work over the years. I truly believe AR is going to be transformative. The technology isn't right yet. There's a lot of things that happen, and it's not going to be in the consumer area and it's going to go up. It's going to be because it's just too expensive now. So you see HoloLens, you see these different things. I truly believe that AR will happen. VR is really, I think it could be a real gamer thing, a simulator, for people who want that, but I don't think it's anywhere near as powerful as an AR experience for a multitude of people in a multitude of applications.
So the problem that Google ran into with Glass, which was called the glass hole problem, the sort of the social,
Yeah, it's a
social, looking away rather than looking you in the eye. I mean, to me, that's an interesting challenge for AR. Do you see a way around?
Well, I think AR is not going to be about necessarily, it's going to be about you walking around with it all the time. It's going to be in certain settings where you're going to use it. It might be in group settings when you're trying to visualize something that between the team and communicate that way. So I think that you're going to see the hardware progress rapidly, but it's going to still take time. We hear about all this stuff, just like self-driving cars are going to be here in 2 years. Bullshit, right? The same thing's going to happen. Like the one thing I've heard, it's like just like when we did General Magic with the PDA, like it's coming. Like I've been tempered by those experiences and understand that there's a lot of moving pieces to get there. Even though you show it, it's going to take time for it to really sink into society, right?
I'm not sure I understand this question, but I want to read it. Maybe we can understand it together. You succeeded where Sony Walkman had failed in ensuring that people would be isolated sonically from the people around them with the iPod. Did you deliberately set out with the iPhone to isolate us visually so we don't have to hear or look at each other? Is that a mean question? What's that?
No, it's basically, look what you've done to our society, right? Look at you. So I wake up sometimes in cold sweats because I think about that. And I think about the impact of the creations that I've been involved with and how it has impacted society so dramatically over the last 10 years or even before that. I remember a wife of someone in the audience coming, well, you've really isolated everyone with those iPods with the earphones because no one wants to talk to each other. But then I looked at it the other way, which is so many people are experiencing so much music that they would see each other and go, what are you listening to? And it was like a connecting in a way, like, oh, you like music. So there's different ways of looking at it. But I also, who in here saw the movie Steve Martin's The Jerk? Anyone? Do you guys? Does anyone remember? I'll tell you real quick. So what was The Jerk all about? This most average guy, whatever. One day he's working at a gas station. This guy has glasses on, and the glasses can't stay on his face. So he's like, "Oh, I'll fix that for you." And he makes this technology, the glasses handle, that's on the bridge of the glasses, and you do this. You don't have to do this anymore. And he's like, "Oh my God, you're a genius." Oh, this guy, and he turned out to be this rich guy, and he was like, I'm going to fund this thing, we're going to start a company. And everybody thought the glasses handle was the biggest technology in the world. It's going to save humanity, right, from bad glasses. So he becomes a billionaire. 5 years later, everyone starts going cross-eyed because they're looking at the glasses handle. And he becomes the most hated person in the world. He destitute, lost everything. So I think about that and go, when the kids are looking at, the digital screen and different pictures are coming up, and there's Grandpa me, or whatever, some old pictures, and they go, am I going to be hated by them for what we created? Or are we going to be like, still, like, is it going to be Alexander Graham Bell bringing light to society, or do we bring nuclear weapons to society? I don't know which it is. But I wake up in cold sweats. I worry about that all the time. I hope in houses, and this is one of the things that we were trying to do at Nest, is to have less screens, not more screens at home.
I was going to ask you, did you see what Amazon?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
So what do you think? Amazon introduced something called the Amazon Echo. What was it called? Look?
Echo. Look. Show. Echo Show.
What do you think?
It's showing the world, and because we mock this stuff up too, it's showing the world there is so much visual information we get from looking at each other, right? The difference between a phone call and a teleconference, right, or a video conference. That what you're not getting is enough hints from the device when you're just speaking at it. You're not getting enough feedback. I don't know if you need a display. We've come up with other ways of doing it. I don't know if you need a display. I think that's too easy to put on there. I think there's other ways of subtle clues to know when it knows that, when you're talking to somebody and you're like, their eyes glaze over and you're like, oh, they're not getting it, right? How do you get that kind of empathetic connection to know if it's understanding you. So they added that. I hope that we can figure out a way to not have to have yet another screen in the house, right? So we'll try it. We'll see what happens. You know, we had Audrey. What was it? Was it Cisco Audrey? Was it Cisco or 3Com Audrey? You know, like 17 years ago.
Didn't go
it's back.
Yeah, dancing dogs, right? They're impressive that they happen to wall.
Right. So we'll see if it's there. But you know, I think a voice interface in the home is really, really powerful. Yeah. And kudos to Amazon for showing the world the way.
This one, somebody in your family must be here because this question, kind of a classic softball, but I'll ask it's good to the audience. To what do you attribute your salesmanship abilities and your sense of humor?
I think my dad was a salesman, right? And I got to go with him to Manhattan and go into these sales meetings where you would be selling fashion or whatever. And you know, he taught me some really important things, which were like, look, if you don't have something, an honest thing you can sell someone, and you know of a better thing, tell your customer that. Because they'll always come back because you're going to tell them the truth. You're not going to just sell them what you have. You're going to tell them where they can get what they want. Like that was like really important, like lesson. And like, you know, there's a lot of sales cultures out there. We know some of them in the valley. And he despised those things, which were you know, now we call it programmers, right? But there's this kind of real bravado in sales team. And he was like so against that. And he taught me, like, don't do that. You sell the truth. And then, again, that was what Steve said. You know, he was rang loud and clear. It's like, if you have a true story and you tell it honestly in a compelling way and you believe it, it's not just some script you were given and it comes from your heart, people will follow you. And you can change the world with that. And through those kind of tidbits, that's where I learned that, like, be honest and be passionate. If you really believe it, and be passionate and be prepared to lay it all on the line to get what you believe in, right? And if it's not working, move on, right? Because you're not talking to the audience that's resonating with you. But also listen, and also do a good job of listening, right? And so the other thing that I was taught through my grandparents, my grandfather, my father, and Steve, talk in analogies. Always talk in analogies that when you're talking about new technologies, new things, something that people can relate to, that they do in everyday life, so they understand the transition or whatever it was. Because as soon as you can connect at that level, then people are like, okay, you have now given me a superpower, and you've explained it to me in a way that I feel empowered. You're not talking above me like some scientist or some legalese or whatever it is. You're talking to me on my level, and you're giving me tools and a way to communicate about those tools to make me feel like I have a new superpower that I can communicate to other people and feel special.
So, a last question. Let's say you show up now, 20 years after the fact, you're a kid, you show up here in the Valley. What would you tell someone similar to you who just walked in, wet behind the ears in Silicon Valley today?
You are going to work very hard. You are going to have a ton of failure. Do not read the popular press that all of these startups all make it. You're going to work your butt off. It's going to take a decade or a decade and a half to actually, if you want to live this dream, be prepared that that's what it's going to take. Now, and make sure you ask for help for everybody around you, because that's what the Valley is all about. Is that, I'm only up here because of many people in this audience who helped me get here, right? And that, make sure you extend a hand when you're asked for help, and these people will extend a hand when you ask for help, right? And that's the magic of Silicon Valley. It's that thing, and I hope we don't lose it. It seems like it's getting diluted, because it's all about mine and backstabbing. Like, what it was like in the 80s here, in the 90s. Like, it was like we're all trying to make this new world together. And it was not about this company versus this, it was about the relationship you had with each of the people that you worked with. And when they went to the competition, because that's what they want to do, you still stayed friends. It wasn't like this, right? And my best friends, right? 25 years, we've been competing, we've been on the same team, but it's that human element that continues to move forward. And now the babies that were born at General Magic, I was like, I couldn't wait to have them be interns and come to my team and be on my team. And we watched that cycle of mentorship happen, right? And I hope that in the next 20, 30 years, I'm going to be able to do what those people who helped me to give back to other, 20-somethings, 30-somethings who have their dreams, to help them with theirs, not just in Silicon Valley, but hopefully around the world. Because I think that's the way we continue to exist as a society. Because we're not just going to all be behind screens competing with each other, because that's not what this is about.
Well, thanks for this little window into this little bit of Silicon Valley history. Join me in giving Tony a hand.
I just want to say thank you to all the people in this audience and around Silicon Valley for all the help you've given me over the last 25 years. And if I can ever help, you know what happened. So thank you.